Globalization. While the population is exponentially exploding, the earth housing them is exponentially shrinking. It is as easy to travel and communicate across the globe today as it was across the neighborhood a century ago. This opens the doors up wide to globalization and forces everyone to play the same game. Instead of giving the weak and poor players an advantage to make the game more fair and meaningful, the playing field is leveled, ensuring that the strong and wealthy players become unbeatable. Money, the measure of value of goods and services traded, has turned into a rubber band measuring tape that can be and is stretched and shrunk by greedy speculators seeking short-term profits. This causes great long-term suffering and sickening hardships. To ease the suffering and temporarily cover up illnesses, pharma industry churns out pills for all ills to those who could afford them. The media has become the message, and its deafening message is to consume. Those few who control the media have hijacked values and brainwashed people into satisfying their short-term addictive wants ahead of their long-term needs. When the criminal sectors who specialize in dealing with drugs, arms, and slaves are globalized, they easily recruit the desperate poor to do the dirty work for them and hire politicians to cover up all that dirt. Then they use greedy banksters to launder their dirty money clean of any traces of stains. Visions have become impaired by short-sightedness and blinded by brilliant flashes of seductive images. Companies with their narrow fields of interests follow principles and pursue goals that are unsustainable. They grow until they are too big to fail or nail and end up being corporate welfare cases supported and subsidized by the poor masses. Biotechnology, dressed up as green and gene revolutionaries, promise to save hungry people from starvation. Like the communists and the global capitalists, they are corrupt at heart as their sole interest is accumulating wealth for themselves. The scientists and the politicians representing them are easily bought and misled. Instead of feeding an overpopulated world, they are killing the soil and enslaving the people into a dependence on the food that they process. They enrich the impoverished foods with chemicals and color and package them in expensive, attractive boxes to make them look fresh. Then they transport the foods thousands of kilometers in polluting trucks to the supermarkets for the gullible, hungry masses that line up like sheep to buy them. Most innovations in food biotechnology are profit-driven rather than need-driven. Agro-industry ruins the soil, perpetuates social injustice, and endangers the ecological balance in our environment. Depleted soils are infused with chemical fertilizers, and monocultures are sprayed with ever-increasing and ever-powerful poisons. This practice favors large corporate farms who could afford this expensive technology and forces most of the traditional single-family farmers to abandon their lands. Plants are genetically modified to be resistant to a specific toxin which kills all other plants. Crops are genetically modified with terminal genes, making their seeds infertile and making the farmers dependent on having to buy seeds each year for the next year's harvests. The bees needed to fertilize seeds of all other naturally grown plants are slowly killed off with these practices, placing all of nature in a very critical situation. The manufacturers of these plants with terminal genes, however, find themselves in a very lucrative monopoly controlling the entire world's food supply. The reasons people go hungry are political and not technical, with the greedy, rich, and powerful controlling the production and distribution of food. What life science corporations have in common is a narrow understanding of life based on the erroneous belief that nature can be subjected to human control. With powerful lobbying tactics, they have bought and convinced politicians to allow patenting of life forms. Patents, making life into a commodity to be bought and sold at the highest price, are given to sequences of DNA codes that life wrote for all of nature. By depleting natural resources and reducing the planet's biodiversity, the very fabric of life on which everybody's well-being depends on are damaged. The solution to all this mess is to abandon the misled scientists, the harmful engineers, and the speculating marketeers, and to return to nature and organic farming, embodying ecological principles that are sustainable and have been sustained for billions of years. Return farms from corporate chemical farmers with their monocultures back to family-run farms. Turn the supermarkets back into farmer markets. The game that values profits higher than democracy, human rights, and environmental protection must be abandoned in order to survive.